Thebes, autumn, 379 BC. Sorry. Ordering Mothak to stay at the house, Parmenion headed for the west of the city and the home of the counselor Clepios. An elderly servant led him to a small room with 3 couches and asked him to wait. After several minutes, another servant entered, bowed, and led the Spartan along a corridor to an elaborately decorated andron. The walls covered with Persian rugs and hangings, the floor boasting a colorful mosaic showing Heracles slaying the Nemean lion. There were 9 couches set around the room, and 2 servants stood by, holding pitchers of wine and water. As the master of the house reclined, apparently reading from a large scroll, Clepios looked up as Parmenion entered and adopted the expression of a man pleasantly surprised to see an old friend. Parmenion was not fooled by the scene. There was tension in the air, and Clepios' eyes showed fear. "Welcome to my house, young Leon," said the counselor, tossing aside the scroll and rising. He was not a tall man, yet he was imposing in a subtle way. His eyes were deep green under shaggy brows, and his beard was carefully curled in the Persian fashion. But it was his voice that gave him power, deep and vibrant. "To what do I owe this pleasure?" "May we talk alone?" asked Parmenion. "We are alone," said Clepios, unconsciously betraying his noble birth. For him, servants were as much a part of the house as tables and couches. Parmenion flicked a glance at the wine carriers, and Clepios waved the men away. As the doors closed, the counselor beckoned Parmenion to the couch beside him, and both men sat. "How close are your plans to fruition?" asked Parmenion. "Plans, my boy? What do you mean?" "We have little time, sir, for playing games. Polysperchon and Epaminondas have been arrested. But then, you know this. You are gambling that they will say nothing of your involvement in the plan to retake the Cadmea. Now I ask again, how close are you?" Clepios' green eyes locked at Parmenion's face, and his own features tightened. "Epaminondas trusted you," he said softly, "but there is no way I can help you. I don't know what you are talking about." Parmenion smiled. "Then perhaps the man who was with you a moment ago can offer us some advice." He turned his head and looked back over his shoulder to a long embroidered curtain. "Perhaps you would like to come out, sir, and join us." The curtains parted, and a tall man stepped into view. He was broad-shouldered and slim-hipped, and his bronze arms showed many scars. His face was square-cut and darkly handsome, his eyes so deep a brown that they appeared black. He smiled grimly. "You are observant, Parmenion," commented the newcomer. "Even an accomplished drinker does not have 2 pitchers of wine and 2 servants by his side," said the Spartan, "and this couch still retained the heat from your body. You are Pelopidas?" "Observant and sharp-witted," said Pelopidas, moving to a nearby couch and reclining on his side. He picked up a goblet of wine and sipped it. "What would you have us tell you?" Parmenion looked at the man who had fought side by side with Epaminondas, suffering 7 great wounds and yet surviving. The man who, with only 30 companions, had fought off 200 Arcadians in a pitched battle. Pelopidas looked like exactly what he was, a peerless fighter, a man made for war. A long time ago, Epaminondas asked me to prepare a plan to take the Cadmea. I have done so. I was merely waiting for him to announce the time. It can be brought into operation within a day, but it depends on the resources available. "I take it you mean men," said Pelopidas. "Exactly. But men who understand discipline and the necessity for timing. We have more than 400 men in the city, and within minutes of a general insurrection, there will be thousands of Thebans on the streets marching on the Cadmea. I think we can kill a few hundred Spartans." "My plan involves no killing of Spartans," said Parmenion. "Are you mad?" Pelopidas asked. "They are Spartan warriors. You think they will give up without a fight?" "Yes," answered Parmenion simply. "How?" put in Clepios. "It would be against all tradition." "First," said Parmenion quietly, "let us examine the alternatives. We can storm the Cadmea and perhaps take it. By killing the Spartans, we give Agesilaus no choices. He will bring the army to Thebes and retake the city, putting to death all who had a part in the insurrection. You will have no time to gather an army of your own. The retaking of the Cadmea in those circumstances would be the worst folly." "You speak like a coward," snapped Pelopidas. "We can raise an army, and I do not believe the Spartans are invincible in battle." "Neither do I," said Parmenion, holding his voice at an even pitch. "But there is a way to retake the Cadmea without a battle." "This is all nonsense," said Pelopidas. "I'll listen to no more of it." "It must be fascinating," said Parmenion quietly as the warrior rose, "to have a body like a god without a mind to match it." "You dare insult me?" stormed Polypidas, the color draining from his face as his hand reached for the dagger at his side. "Draw that blade and you die," Parmenion told him. "And after you, Epaminondas will die, and Thebes will remain in chains or be destroyed utterly." Holding to the man's gaze, Parmenion rose. "Understand this," he said, his voice shaking with repressed emotion. "My entire life is devoted to one dream, the destruction of Sparta. For years I have been forced to wait for my vengeance, learning patience while the talons of rage tore at my soul. Now the first moment of my revenge is close. Can you imagine how much I want to see the Spartans in the Cadmea slain? How my heart cries out for them to be humbled, cut down, their bodies thrown out to feed the crows. But there is no point to petty vengeance when the greater dream lives on. First we free Thebes, then we plan for the great day. Now, Polypidas, be silent and learn." Swinging away from the warrior, he turned to Callippius, outlining his plan and watching the man's every expression. The counselor was intelligent, with a keen mind, and Parmenion needed his support. Choosing his words with care, the Spartan spoke quietly, answering every question Callippius put to him. Then he turned to Polypidas. "What now is your view, warrior?" he asked. Polypidas shrugged. "Sitting here, it sounds good, but I don't know how it will work in reality, and I still think the Spartans will bring an army." "So do I," agreed Parmenion, "but they may not fight. I think Agesilaus will seek the support of Athens. The Spartans took the Cadmea 3 years ago because pro-Spartan descendants in the city invited them here. They have always argued that they are guests, friends. It makes a lie of that if, when asked to leave, they return to do battle. What do you require?" asked Callippius. "First, a doctor or an herbalist, and also the name of the man who supplies provisions to the Spartans. Next, you must prepare a speech to be delivered in the main square tomorrow, an hour before dusk." "And what of me?" Polypidas asked. "You will kill every pro-Spartan counselor," said Parmenion, dropping his voice. "Sweet Zeus," whispered Callippius. "Murder? Is there no other way?" "There are 5 of them," Parmenion said. 2 are good orators. Leave them alive, and Sparta will use them as the lever to bring down the insurrection. After the Cadmea is taken, the city must be seen to be united. They must die. But one of them, Cascus, is my cousin. I grew up with him," said Callippius. "He's not a bad man." "He has chosen the wrong side," stated Parmenion, shrugging his shoulders, "and that makes him bad. For Thebes to be free, the 5 must die. But all Spartan soldiers outside the citadel must be taken alive and brought to the Cadmea." "What then?" asked Polypidas. "Then we will free them," answered the Spartan. Mothac was awakened by a hand pushing at his shoulder. "What in Hades?" he grumbled as he sat up, pushing away the insistent hand. "I need you," said Parmenion. Mothac glanced out of the window. "But it is not dawn yet." He scratched at his red beard, then rubbed the sleep from his eyes. Swinging his leg from the bed, he rose unsteadily and reached for his chiton. "What is happening?" "Freedom," answered Parmenion. "I will await you in the Andron." Mothac dressed and splashed his face with cold water. He had downed several goblets of unwatered wine before retiring, and now they were reminding him of his stupidity. He belched, took a deep breath, then joined Parmenion in the small Andron. The Spartan looked tired. Dark rings were showing under his eyes. "We are going to free Epaminondas today. But first there are many matters to be resolved. Do you know the man Amta, the meat merchant in the southwestern quarter? What of him? You will go to the surgeon Horace and collect from him a package of herbs. You will take them to Amta. There you will be met by a tall warrior, dark-bearded. He will tell you what must be done. Herbs? Meat merchants? What has this to do with freeing Epaminondas?" Parmenion ignored the question. "When you have accomplished your task, you will accompany the warrior. He is a known and wanted man, but he must not be taken. Therefore, he will use you and others to take messages across the city. Do as he bids, whatever the request." "You are talking of revolt," said Mothac, his voice dropping to a whisper. "Yes, exactly that." "What of the officers of the watch?" "There are more than 200 soldiers patrolling the city." "Theban soldiers. Let us hope they remember that. Now go. We have little time and there are people I must see." Mothac took his dark green cloak and swung it around his shoulders. "Take a sword and dagger," Parmenion advised him, and he nodded. Minutes later, he was at the house of Horace the physician, where a man was waiting in the shadowed doorway. He was tall and skeletally thin. Mothak approached him and bowed. "Greetings, doctor. You have a package for me?" The man glanced nervously at the darkened street, his eyes flickering from side to side. "There is no one but me, I assure you," said Mothak. "This package did not come from me. You understand that?" "Of course." "Now use it sparingly. Sprinkle it carefully over the meat. Try not to get it on your fingers, but if you do, then wash them with care." "It is poison then," whispered Mothak, surprised. "Of course it is not poison," snapped the physician. "You think I became a doctor so that I could kill people? It is what the Lords asked for. Purgatives and vomiting powders. Now get you gone from here, and remember I have no part in this." Mothak took the package and headed toward the north of the city. As he turned a corner near the agora, a soldier stepped out in his path. "Where are you going, friend?" he asked. 3 other soldiers of the watch came into view. "I am heading home, sir," answered Mothak, smiling. "Is there trouble?" "You are well armed for an evening stroll," the man observed. "It pays to be careful," Mothak told him. The soldier nodded. "Pass on," he said. When Mothak arrived at the home of Amta the butcher, a large building set close to the slaughter yard and warehouse, he halted at the main gates, searching the shadows for the man he was to meet. "You are Mothak?" came a voice from behind him. Mothak dropped the package and whirled, scrabbling for his sword. Cold iron touched his throat. "I am," he replied. "And you?" "I am none of your concern. Pick up the package and let us awaken our friend." The gate was not locked, and the tall warrior eased it open. Then the 2 men crept across the courtyard and out into the house beyond. All was in darkness, but moonlight was shining through an open window, and they could make out the staircase by the eastern wall. Mothak followed his nameless companion up into the second story to a bedroom facing east, where the man opened the door and stepped inside. In a broad bed on a raised platform lay a fat man, snoring heavily. The warrior moved alongside him and laid a hand on his shoulder. The snoring ceased, and Mothak saw Amta's eyes flick open. The warrior's knife rested on the fat man's quivering jowls. "Good morning," said the warrior with a smile. "It will be a fine day. What do you want?" "I want you to show that you love Thebes." "I do. All men know that." "And yet you supply food to the Spartan garrison." "I am a merchant. I cannot refuse to sell my merchandise. I would be arrested, called a traitor." "It is all a question of perspective, dear Amta. You see, we are going to free Thebes, and then we will call you a traitor." The fat man eased himself to a sitting position, trying not to look at the knife poised above his throat. "That would be unfair," he protested, his voice regaining composure. "You could not accuse every man who deals with Spartans, or all shop owners and merchants. Yes, and even whores would be under sentence. Who are you?" "I am Pelopidas." "What do you require of me?" the fat man asked, fear returning with the sweat that suddenly appeared on his face. "What time do you prepare the meat for the garrison?" "An hour before dawn." "Then my lads pull it up to the Cadmea on a cart. Then let us be about our business," said Pelopidas, sheathing his dagger. "What has my meat to do with freeing Thebes? We have some herbs with us to add to the flavor. But if you poison them, I'll get the blame. You can't." "It is not poison, fool," hissed Pelopidas. "Would that it were. Now get out of that bed and take us to your storeroom." 3 hours after dawn, Parmenion still had not slept. He waited at the entrance to the smithy, his mind whirling with thoughts that became problems, and problems that became fears. What if the Spartans saw the meat was doctored? What if Pelopidas was caught salting the water? What if the news of the plot leaked out? Parmenion's head was pounding, and the early morning sunshine hurt his eyes. Feeling nauseous and unsteady, he sat down in the roadside. Ever since the day he had rescued Derae, he had suffered periodic head pain, but during the last 2 years the bouts had increased in both regularity and intensity. At times, even his Spartan training could not help him overcome the agony, and he had taken to drinking poppy juice when the attacks became unbearable. But today there was no time for the sleep of opium, and he tried to ignore the pain. The smith, Norak, came walking into the street minutes later. He was a huge man, wide-shouldered and bull-necked. Parmenion rose to greet him. "You're early, young man," said Norak, "but if you think to arrange speedy work, forget it. I have a full order book. I need 20 iron spikes by midday, each one the length of a man's forearm," Parmenion told him. "You are not listening, my young friend. I cannot take any more work for this week." Parmenion stared into the man's deep-set brown eyes. "Listen to me, Norak. You are said to be a man who can be trusted. I am sent by Pelopidas, you understand? The watchword is Heracles." The smith's eyes narrowed. "For what purpose do you need the spikes?" "To nail shut the Cadmea gates. We also need men to wield the hammers." "Hera's tits, boy, you are not asking much, are you? You'd better come inside." The smithy was deserted. Norak walked to the forge, adding tinder to the hot ashes inside and blowing the flames to life. "The spikes will be no problem," he said, "but how do we hammer them home without the Spartans falling upon us?" "Speed and skill. Once the crossbar is in place, 6 men will run to the gates." Parmenion walked to the far wall, lifting a spear haft from a stack awaiting iron heads. Standing the haft on its end, he drew his dagger, slashing 2 cuts into the wood. "This is the height and thickness of the crossbar. The gates are oak, old, weathered, and thick as the length of a man's hand. Could you pierce one in 6 strikes?" Norax flexed his prodigious muscles. "Aye, boy, I could, but most others will need 7 or 8. Parmenion nodded. "You can double the speed by having 4 men with hammers at each gate. But the timing is vital. The moment of greatest danger will come when the crowd is marching upon the Cadmea. It is then that the commander will consider sending out an armed force." "I'll see the deed done," promised Norak, and Parmenion smiled. The gates are usually shut at dusk. Bring the spikes to the house of Calepios by midday, no later, and have 11 strong men with you. Parmenion left the smithy and walked slowly to Calepios' home. The statesman was eating breakfast and asked Parmenion to join him, but the Spartan refused. "Have you heard from Pelopidas?" he asked. "Not yet. You look dreadful, man. Your face has lost all color. Are you ill?" "I am fine, merely tired." "The word about your speech must be spread through the city. We need as many people as possible to hear it. You said that last night. It is all in hand, my friend." "Yes, of course." Parmenion filled the goblet with water and sipped it. "Go inside and sleep for a while," advised Calepios. "I will wake you when Pelopidas returns." Later, how many men will be watching the city gates? "No one must leave until Thebes is ours. There will be 10 men per gate. Have no fears. Everything is as you planned it. Some people will bring bows to the Cadmea, hoping for a chance to loose an arrow at a Spartan. All but our own men must be disarmed. There must be no unplanned assault." Pelopidas and Mothak entered the courtyard, and Parmenion stood. "Well," he asked. "Mothak and I delivered the food. As you thought, we were left to ourselves in the storeroom. I salted the water barrels. There were 10 of them. We ran out of salt for the last barrel. And I thought of urinating in it, but instead we tipped it over on the floor." "Good, well done," said Parmenion, sinking back to his seat. "Then we are ready." "Have you planned your speech?" I asked Calepios. "Yes," answered the statesman, "and I will deliver it to the agora just before dusk. There will be a great crowd. Now will you get some rest?" Parmenion ignored his plea and turned to Pelopidas. "What of the counselors?" "What of the counselors?" The warrior sat down on the bench seat alongside Parmenion. "The gods are with us, Parmenion. I am told they will all be at celebration at the house of Alexandros. They are gathering there at midday. They will eat and drink and then send out for whores. We will kill them all, save Calepios' cousin, Cascus." "No," snapped Parmenion. "All must die." "Cascus is no longer in the city," said Pelopidas, swinging his eyes to Calepios. "By a strange stroke of luck, he left 2 hours ago for his summer estate near Corinth." Parmenion's fist slammed to the tabletop and his eyes locked to Calepios' face. "You warned him. You put everything in jeopardy." The statesman shrugged and spread his hands. "I do not deny asking him to leave the city, but I did not betray anyone. I told Cascus of a dream I had for 3 nights, that he died. I told him I had been to the seeress about it, and she had said he had to make a pilgrimage to the shrine of Hecate at Corinth. All men know how religious Cascus is. He left immediately." "It was foolish, Calepios," Parmenion told him. "If we do retake the city, then Cascus will run to the Spartans, and they will use him as a figurehead to march upon us. You may have doomed us all. The statesman nodded his head. I have no defense to that, but Cascas is of my blood and very dear to me, and in his own way he cares for Thebes as much as any of us. But there is nothing I can do to change my actions, and if there were, I would refuse so to do. Parmenian's head felt as if it were ready to explode. He drank more water and then walked into the house, seeking to escape the brightness of the courtyard. Mothak followed him. I've seen marble statues with more color than you, said Mothak, as Parmenian slumped into a divan. I think you need some wine. No, said Parmenian as his stomach surged. Just leave me for a while. I'll get some sleep.